Last week, we did this message about offense. And the main point of the message was we all get offended in life, okay? People say offensive things. That's inevitable. Scripture even said that. It's inevitable. But being offended is a choice. That's how we choose to react. Today, we're going to carry on this message, and my title today is Faults and Forgiveness. Faults and Forgiveness. As a child, did any of you ever play the game Operation? If you remember this game, you had this little kind of man, outline of a man on a little table, and they actually have a name for this guy. His name is Cavity Sam. Cavity Sam. What a weird name, okay? Cavity Sam. He's called that because he has all these holes on him in different parts of his body. The point of the game is to pretend like you are a surgeon and that you are going in and you are picking out whatever those parts are that need to come out of the body because they're infected or whatever. So you get these little tweezer-like things and you go in there and you try to pull out whatever the hurt is or the pain is or the sickness is. But the issue is along the edges of that cavity, there's some sort of like device that if you touch it, all of a sudden, it sends a vibration through Cavity Sam, and then his nose, lights up red, and then you lose. So, if you have a really steady hand, this is a game you could get into and pull it out, but if you're like me and kind of got a little bit of shaky hand syndrome, you are going to lose that game for sure. Here's the deal. In life, sometimes we're like Cavity Sam when it comes to offenses. People want to try to talk to us about certain things in our life or certain areas, and we have hurts and pains in those certain spots. And so when somebody tries to reach into that, and it's like all of a sudden our nose goes, woo! And nope, don't go there. Don't talk about that. Some of the particular issues that people deal with that they don't want to talk with others about. One is money. If somebody asks you a question, how much money do you make? You're like, I ain't telling you. Right? All of a sudden, that Cavity Sam, woo, the nose lights up red. Or, how are you doing financially? Or, how much is your payment on this? I ain't telling you. Maybe another question that somebody may ask is like, hey, how are you and your spouse doing? And Cavity Sam lights up and is like, mind your own business. Maybe somebody touches on a subject and they ask you a question like, how do you feel about COVID vaccinations? And you're like, woo, the nose is all red, and no, we're not talking about that. That's going to cause issues. Or maybe you go a step further and, who did you vote for in the last election? People, woo, no, we can't talk about that. No, that's no-go area, okay? Or we go a step further and be like, whoa, did you believe that the last election was rigged? Whoa, we're not going there, people. We have these hurts and pains, things that we don't like to necessarily talk about. When we are like Cavity Sam and we have issues in our life from our past that kind of get in the way of interacting with people, that's a problem when we can't have true communication with people. I know people whose family has stopped talking to them, visiting them, doing holidays with them because of who they voted for in the last election. This is terrible. If you are somebody or you feel like you have to interact with somebody that, it's a little bit of a challenge because you never know what that topic is. You never know what that cavity is in their life. And so you're always kind of like, can I talk about this? Are you in an okay mood to talk about this? That's exhausting. And some of you may have somebody in your family that's like that, or a coworker or a spouse or somebody that is just exhausting. You never know what could set that colleague off, or that boss off, or that girlfriend or boyfriend off, or even that neighbor off. We have got to learn to not be so offended. And we've got to learn how to communicate to others. Did you know that people can get offended without words ever being said? Like, it's true. Like, that's, if you really think about that, when we think about offense, we probably think, oh, somebody said something mean. But a lot of people get offended and words have never even been exchanged. They've never even talked to you. So we're going to talk about 2 ways real quick about how people can get offended. One unusual way people can get offended is by what they didn't hear. By what they didn't hear. People can be offended because they're jealous of someone else. People can be offended because somebody else was given a compliment, but they weren't. Sometimes people get hurt because others didn't notice them. Nobody noticed that, hey, you cut half an inch off of your hair. Nobody noticed that you changed your nail polish from pink to light pink. Nobody noticed the extra time that you spent at the office, putting in some extra hours in the morning or extra hours in the evening. Nobody noticed that you lost 0.5 pounds. Nobody noticed the little things that you do, like cut the crust off your kid's peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Nobody noticed the little things that you do, like take out the trash. And nobody even asked you to do it. You see, sometimes people get offended because others get noticed, but they don't. You may have a job where there's multiple people in kind of the similar role, but for whatever reason, that one person seems to always get the recognition, and you're over here and you're like, I'm doing the same thing that they're doing, but they always get the reward, always get the accolades, but I'm over here and I'm not getting recognized. There's this guy by the name of Saul. He was king of Israel. And what you need to know about Saul is that in 1 Samuel chapter 9, okay? You don't have to turn there. I'm just going to give you a quick highlight. Saul, when he was chosen by God, it said that he was the most handsome person in Israel. That's an interesting thing. He's also a head taller than everybody else in Israel. So he's tall, he's handsome. God appointed him to be the first king of Israel. And so for a while, he led Israel. He did a good job. But then this event happened. And here's what happened in this event. There was this man by the name of Goliath who represented the Philistines. These were the enemies that would come down, and every day he would taunt the Israelites, and nobody would respond. In fact, King Saul should have been the one that responded. But this little teenager, David, steps up and says, I'll do it. And the story goes on that David ends up killing this guy, killing Goliath. After this, Saul rewards him and says, hey, I'm going to make you a military commander. I'm going to send you out on missions. Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to continue to fight against the Philistines and our enemies. And so David is doing what he's been told to do. So we pick up the story here in 1 Samuel 18. 1 Samuel 18, verse 6. When the victorious Israelite army was returning home after David had killed the Philistine, women from all the towns of Israel came out to meet King Saul. They sang and danced for joy with tambourines and cymbals. This was their song. Saul has killed thousands, and David has killed 10,000s. Verse 8. This made Saul very angry. What's this, he said. They credit David with 10,000 and me with only thousands. Next, they'll be making him their king. So from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. Saul put David in that position. David was doing what he was tasked to do as a military commander. He had success. His success was gaining him fame in the community. And the women, as they would always do whenever there was a military victory, they would sing a song about it. And it used to be about Saul. But where was Saul? Saul didn't go out to fight, did he? So it says that, hey, Saul has, he's beat his thousands. But then they said, David, 10,000s. And this sent Saul to the moon. He was so mad about this. Wait a second. I can't believe they're giving this guy more accolades than me, more, just a pomp and circumstance about what he's done. What about me? Maybe you've done this before in life. What about me? Maybe we're jealous because somebody else around us is getting the recognition and we are not. We need to learn to celebrate the success of others around us. We need to learn to celebrate others' success. Listen, in life, in most things, you're typically a part of a team, okay? Whether that's your family, whether it's your church, whatever it is, your job, you're a part of a team. If the team is winning, that's a good thing. So I'm going to reference basketball a lot, so y'all just got to get used to it, okay? I love basketball, love football, those types of things. So here's a basketball reference. If last week I scored 40 points, but we lost, this week if I scored 2 points, but we won, I'm happier because my team won. You see, this is how it's supposed to be in life. We need to celebrate those around us because we're winning together, not just individually. When CLA does something good, it's not just because one person did it. We're winning together. And so that's what we want to be as a community. But that's what we need to do individually. We need to do that in our families. Learn to give credit to others. Give encouragement to others. Just because someone else got noticed does not mean that you do not have value. You do have value. You do have worth. You do have purpose. Be the best you can be, even if no one is looking. I remember in high school basketball, we used to have this drill that we used to do, and it's basically like a wall squat, or if you don't have a wall, you would do this. I'm old, so I'm not going to be able to do it very long anymore, okay? But you get like this. It's a defensive position where you're basically sitting in a squat, and you're like trying to do this as long as you can, and your legs start shaking, your body starts hurting, and you're doing this as the coach is walking by, and then as soon as the coach walks by, everyone kind of does this. And then the coach turns around. In this up and down game. But here's the deal. It shouldn't matter who's watching. You need to do what you're told to do. You need to be who you've been tasked to be. You need to be the best that you can be in whatever circumstance, even if somebody isn't recognizing you, be the best that you can be. That's what we're called to be. The scripture says that we're supposed to be excellent in everything that we do because we're doing it for the Lord. Another unusual way that people can be offended is that people can be offended for somebody else. So it has nothing to do with them, but it has something to do with a loved one, a family member, a friend, a coworker, and they feel like, hey, they've been mistreated or they've been insulted, and so you're mad for them. Any of you ever get mad for somebody else? You're mad for something they're walking through. When my son Dominic, he's my oldest, he's in 5th grade now. When he was in 2nd grade, that was the first season I ever got to coach him in basketball. And so we had this team, we were called the Ninjas, all right? And we didn't get to choose who played on our team. It was just like the league said, here are your players. So there was nothing like fair or whatever about it, just like, here you go. Well, they just so happened to give me 2 of the best players in the league. And I had my own son on the team, and so we were really good. So we were just like demolishing other teams. My son at this time, he was about 6 inches taller than other 2nd graders. He actually got the name in the league of Baby Shaq. Okay? If you don't know who Shaq is, he was a center for the Los Angeles Lakers, some other teams and whatnot, but 7 foot tall, like 350 pounds. He was a beast in the middle, all right? So Dominic gets this name, Baby Shaq. And Dominic would just shoot the ball, and if he missed, no problem, because he was the tallest person out there. Get the ball, shoot it back again. It was just like this back and forth until it went in. Well, one day, we're destroying another team. And a mom from the stands comes down from the stands, marches over to my bench. My wife was sitting on the bench and starts screaming at my wife. So at this league, like the coaches were actually the refs as well. So like I'm running up and down the floor, and I'm seeing like, what is happening? So I like call time out, and the other ref just happened to be the coordinator for the whole league, and I'm like, we got a problem. You need to go get this parent off the floor because she's yelling at my wife. So he goes over there, and this is the spiel that the lady gives, the mom. She feels like her son has been marginalized and pushed aside, and because her son wasn't doing very well in the game, this is what she said. That kid, number 8, he shouldn't be playing. He is at least in 5th grade. He should not be playing on a 2nd grade team. If he was in 2nd grade, my son would be able to score as well. He should not be playing. You're cheating as a coach. Now, how many of you know that you can't rationalize with crazy? So the coordinator of the league, he just came together and said, okay, hey, let me escort you out the door. This is what happens sometimes in life. We get so frustrated and angry for somebody else because we feel like they are being mistreated. We need to learn how to respond appropriately to things, appropriately to situations. So now we're going to unpack this. How should I respond when I am offended? The first step is choose the right response. Look at your neighbor and say, right. Colossians 4:6 says this, let your conversation be gracious and attractive so that you will have the right response for everyone. That word conversation, it literally means speech or words. So let your speech or the words that you have be gracious. The word gracious means sweetness, goodwill, loving kindness. So let your words be sweet. The word attractive, this word actually refers to like seasoning. Okay, in some versions of the Bible, it'll say like, let your seasoning or let your salt. It's referring to like spices, the things that make food taste good. It's saying the words that you say, the words that you choose to say, they should be seasoned with the right stuff. And when they're seasoned with the right stuff, then people are going to have good conversation with you. You know that you can have a difficult conversation with somebody, but because you've seasoned it right, you can have that conversation. But when you choose to not have the right seasoning on it, it blows up. So we need to learn to have the right seasoning to make it attractive. Now notice the last part of that line, it says have the right response. We often want to give people our initial response. Our initial response is typically one of anger, typically one of offense, where, we have this kind of like inside of us just wants to like punch somebody in the nose. You said what? You said what about my kid? Like there's this inside of us that wants to say something back. I'm just going to tell you right now, this is a good tool for all of us to have. When you are offended, pause. Pause before you speak. Pause before you speak. This will help you in your marriage. It's going to help you in your relationships with children, your coworkers. Just pause. And if somebody's like, why aren't you talking? You'd be like, I'm thinking. Because your initial response is probably not the right response. We have to give the right response, not our initial response. Sometimes because our gut response is swear words, right? Our gut response is, I want to poke you in the eyes. Like, our gut response isn't the best. And so sometimes we've got to pause, think, choose the right response. The next point I want to make today is we need to learn to make room for offense. Look at your neighbor and say, make room. Colossians 3:13 says this, make allowance for each other's faults. and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. That phrase, make allowance, like that's so interesting to me how that's put. Make allowance for each other's faults. The word allowance, it means to bear with, to endure. Simply put, it means put up with, to put up with the offense. Make allowance refers to making room, making space, creating some sort of a buffer zone, creating a leeway zone, giving somebody the benefit of the doubt, creating this gap. Now, this particular thing, when we're talking about creating space, a lot of issues could be fixed if we would start by having the space already there. We've created this allowance so that when somebody says something or says something about somebody we love, there's already some room there so that we can have this space. That's talking about the things that are happening right now in your life. So, what happens, especially in America now, we don't have any allowance, any room, any space. It's like we are smashed up against every single person, and if they say something, we just want to be like, poof. Like, you said what? Poof. And it's like, if we had a little bit of space, create a little bit of gap, this would help us to interact better. So we need to learn to create that space, make allowance for others. This scripture also says that we need to forgive anyone who offends you. So forgiveness, that's dealing with the things that have already happened. Somebody's already offended you, okay? All right, we got to forgive them. And it simply says, we need to forgive because the Lord forgave us. So forgive others. And here's the best part of this. It says forgive anyone. It doesn't say only the person who on Tuesday brings you Starbucks and a fresh scone. Okay? It doesn't say that. It doesn't say only if your spouse grovels at your feet on Thursday and he's brought you flowers and chocolates. It says anyone. We're supposed to forgive anyone. I need to forgive others because God has forgiven me. The word forgiveness, it means to pardon, to restore to one another. If there was anyone who had a reason to be offended or a reason to be mad at us and treat us poorly, it's God. It was Jesus. Even on the cross, Jesus was creating room. He was creating that allowance. He was forgiving. Some of his last words that are recorded is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He was creating space, forgiving them for the things of the past, but creating space going toward for the future as well. Here's my main point of today. If you don't walk away with anything else today, this is it. My greatest opportunity to be like Jesus is when I am offended. My greatest opportunity to be like Jesus is when I am offended. Because if there was anybody that had reason to be offended, it was Jesus. So if we want to show the love of Christ to the world, we do that when we're offended. We need to remember that everyone has a story. Any of you have a story? Your life story, right? We all got a story. And we often, as we interact with people and people who are easily offended, it has really nothing to do with you. It probably has something to do with their story. Something about their past, maybe the family that they grew up in, maybe the experiences, the trauma, the things that they went through. And because of that, it has shaped how they respond to certain things in life. So by the time they're interacting with you, a lot of times the offense isn't really about you. It's about the things that have already happened. For some people, that offense may be that they had an overbearing mom who was really harsh with them, and their kid could never do anything right, and they were just always all over them. You're not good enough. You can't do this. And just, it was hard. For others, it may be that there was an absent father. For others, maybe there's just been difficult bosses along the way who treated you poorly or just mistreated you, didn't pay you what you were supposed to make, and made fun of you in front of others. For others, maybe there's this cavity in them, like cavity sand, because they've experienced great loss. There's pain because they've lost a loved one, maybe a spouse, maybe a child. And because of that, it has shaped how they are. Maybe you have interacted with somebody who they are really, really unlikely to ever trust anybody because they have experienced mistrust. Maybe a best friend, maybe a family member betrayed them or stole from the business or whatever it is. There are hurts and pains out there that shape the way people respond. Church, offenses build fences. What do I mean by that? Offenses build fences. When people have offense in their life, what do? Our initial response is, I need to protect myself. So we put a wood plank in the ground. But what happens with offense? Because we're going to be offended again. So we put another plank in the ground. We put another plank in the ground. More and more and more and more. And we build this wall around ourselves to protect us from other people from hurting us. But here's the problem. Yes, you may be pushing them off and they can't get in, but you're trapped inside. So here's the deal. The way that we need to move on from offense and take down the fence is through forgiveness, because forgiveness brings freedom. Forgiveness isn't always about freeing the other person who has done the wrong. Forgiveness is freeing you so that you can move on in life. There's some people in this room today that you just need to be able to move on in life, and you're not going to be able to do it until you forgive that person. You may need to forgive a mom, a dad, a coach, a family member, your boss. In Romans 5, verse 8, it says, "But God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners." This phrase, while we were still sinners, this messes with my mind. The reason I say that is because he gave us his best when I'm at my worst. That's the kind of love that Christ has. He gave us his best when we're at our worst, not when we deserve it, not when we've helped enough old ladies across the street, or we were kind or sweet with somebody, or, we waved and we smiled. No. On your worst day, when you're cussing out your kid, or you're flipping somebody off on the road, or you stole from the company, whatever it is, he died for you because he loved you. So this means that we need to leave it in the past, move on, and forgive. Proverbs 17:9 says this: "Love prospers when a fault is forgiven." Love prospers when a fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. My next point, if we want to truly show the love of Christ, we need to learn to say the words, "I'm sorry." And for some of us in the room, we need to hear, "I am sorry." There is great power in a genuine apology. Now, I emphasize genuine, because if you have kids and you have ever, had that happen, and you're like, "You need to apologize to your sister," and they're like, "No, I'm not going to do that. If you don't apologize, you're getting in timeout, or you're getting a spanking, or what? I'm sorry." And you're like, "That doesn't count." "I said the word." You said the words, but you didn't mean it. "How do you know I didn't mean it?" "Because you're angry when you say it." For some of us, you may say "I'm sorry" to somebody, but you're angry when you're saying it. That doesn't count. There comes a point when you got to reach down deep inside and find that sincerity. And "I'm sorry." And when you get a genuine apology from somebody, man, that's so much better. So much better. We need to learn to apologize to people when we have wronged them, because it shows love. In this room today, I'm sure there are many people, you need to hear the words, "I'm sorry." But the problem is, the person you need to hear the words, I'm sorry from, maybe they're no longer around. It could be somebody who's died. It could be an absentee father. It could be a friend who's betrayed you. It could be from a divorce. Here's what I want to do just for a moment. I want to say I'm sorry on behalf of some people, because there's some people that you're never going to hear it from. And so I want to give you opportunity to hear it so that you can find freedom and forgive. I am sorry for every person that never showed up for you. Maybe that was a mom or dad who said, I'm coming to your game, I'm going to be here. Yeah, we'll throw the ball, we'll do this. And they always let you down. The broken promises. I want to say I'm sorry on behalf of the parent or parents who abandoned you, neglected you, didn't want you. I'm sorry. They couldn't see how amazing you were. I'm sorry for the friends that have betrayed your trust, who have said horrible, awful lies about you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the abuse that you have faced in life. Maybe that abuse was verbal abuse, and somebody just tearing apart your character, tearing apart who you are as a human being, making you feel worthless, making you lose all self-confidence in who you are. I want to say I'm sorry for those of you who have faced physical abuse. You've gone through pain. You have literal, real scars that you walk with throughout your life because of things that other people have done to you. I'm sorry. For those of you in this room that maybe you have experienced sexual trauma, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm sorry for the pain that you have experienced. But church, I want to tell you that your pain doesn't have to be a prison. Your pain does not have to be your prison. It does not have to be where you end up for the rest of your life. It's time to forgive, let the freedom come through, and allow you to walk free. So I will encourage you, forgive. Forgive those who have hurt you, even if they never say it to you. Church, we need to learn to choose to be what we want to see in others. What does that mean? That means giving compliments, encouraging each other. It means admitting when we're wrong. It means apologizing. It means loving. It means seasoning our life with this salt or whatever it is so that we can create some space, learning to say the right words. So church, as we conclude this, choose the right response in how you talk to people. Remember to make room for offenses, because offenses are coming, right? Offenses will come in life, but remember to create this space to allow for offense. And remember that people have gone through pain. They have gone through trauma. They have gone through stuff in their life. And a lot of times what you are experiencing is because of what they've gone through. Church, we need to remember that when we are offended, we have an opportunity to be like Jesus. So let's show the world his love.